Now let's change the subject completely, because going through a divorce can be hugely stressful. But what if it also brings with it rejection by your family or people in your community?
Well, that's something which is explored in tonight's Inside Out West programme, looking at how divorce can still be a taboo subject within parts of the Sikh community. And that was the experience of Kieran Collette, who's spoken on tonight's programme.
I was one of the first girls in my town that even embarked upon thinking about divorce and that big D word, and it was regarded as a big D word. But I was in a really difficult position because in the Indian community, strong Sikh girls stay in a marriage regardless of what it's thrown at you. But then, because we were in England, the English society was saying, well, actually, strong girls leave a marriage. So I was stuck between a pillar and a post about actually what do I do?
Well, Minreet Kaur made the film, and as you can see, she's here now. Thanks for coming in, Min. So this was similar to your own experience, wasn't it?
It was, indeed. So just as Kieran was saying, you're stuck in that marriage. I got married 11 years ago. I got divorced 11 years ago, but was married only a year. And I really felt like I had to stay in that marriage. But because of what I went through, it was a really unhappy marriage. I decided to leave because I've got really supportive parents and some close friends. But you know, that thought of when you're looking to leave that marriage and that you're going to have this big label, the D word of damaged goods and being divorced, I had that. So people would judge me on being divorced. There was a stigma. Men that were unmarried didn't want to know me. And the community would say to my parents, why did you take your daughter back home? And why did you come back home? So my parents had to be really strong. And at that time, there was no one that I really knew that was divorced. So it was really horrible, and it was a really lonely place.
So there must be lots of women stuck in unhappy marriages, but possibly men too. Is there a stigma for men, or is it just for the women?
So this is the thing. I felt back then it was just women, and this is why I wanted to share mine and Kieran's experience. But in fact, when my story was originally shared, when I had done a piece around that, men had said to me, well, have you thought about us and what we go through? And I said, you're right. I don't actually know what you go through because you don't come forward. But now I'd say, yes, it is for men. I think they struggle too. I think it's very difficult for them, but they just don't speak up in the community. I think they find it hard to. But you're right, it exists. Divorce in general in the community is a stigma and a taboo, and it shouldn't be.
So what reaction, when you started talking about it and being public about this and how you felt, what kind of reaction did that get?
I had quite a bit of backlash, actually, more from men saying that, you know, you didn't think about us, but also, why have you brought the word Sikh into it? And I said, well, I'm a Sikh woman looking for a Sikh man. And it's exactly how Kieran said. How else would I be able to describe who I am? And if you don't meet somebody in the Sikh community, you're still going to get that backlash. So I felt like I had to really be strong, and my parents had to be really strong, because it was my personal story, talking about me. And then Kieran, obviously, it was just that there are other women like me out there. So I had to be, someone who had to just basically go forward with it and not be, taken back.
I think the attitudes to divorce was the same in the wider community in Britain, in the 50s and probably right out into the 60s, probably. And things have now changed. Do you think it will change within the Sikh community as well?
So I think it has. So since doing this piece and going to the Gurdwara, the Sikh place of worship, I did feel that it has changed. It's probably not as bad as what it was when I first got divorced or Kieran did. I still think there is still a problem there in the community, that if you're divorced, people are not very forthcoming with introducing you to people. And in the Gurdwara, the Sikh place of worship where the matrimonials are, they will only say to you, here you can meet only someone who's divorced, which I think is really bad. Yeah,
they said there were two divorcees, weren't there? I was reading your story, which is really shocking. They were saying we won't put you forward to any of the unmarried men.
No, and so I just think, but we shouldn't be doing that, because we're all equal, and what does it matter if you're divorced? Everyone has some experience or story.
And that's almost suggesting it was your fault, but it ended anyway, I suppose.
Yeah.
Really interesting, and you tell it so eloquently. Thank you very much, Min, for coming in. It was really interesting.
Thanks. Nice to see you here, and you can see the film which Min made on tonight's Inside Out West. It's on at its usual time. That's 7:30 here on BBC One. That's only in about 40 minutes, so why not stick around for that?